Okay, let's kind of get started. So today we're talking about basically just like behind the scenes of my business, like what I do, what a typical day looks like, where I put my focus, who does what in my business, and so much more. So I'm sharing this because I really want you to see where I was and where I'm at now, because those are different things. And I think that a lot of times we like come on a live like this and think, well, Lacey is creating a lot of success and is doing it this way, so I have to do it that way. And maybe this works for you and maybe it doesn't. So I'm going to share like what it like evolved like for me over time, because I think that's really important too, is that where I'm sitting today is like 3 years plus into my business. It's not where I started. So depending on where you're starting, this may or may not be appropriate, but I think that two things are going to be really helpful for you here. One, I'm going to talk about kind of how all this evolved, and two, I'm going to talk about where I was kind of like when I started and where I've kind of gotten to over time. And so no matter where you kind of are on this spectrum, I really intend for this to be super useful. I think that what can happen is that it can be really confusing to see someone like further along in their business and think, well, like, do I have to be doing it that way? Should I be doing something else now? Whatever. So first piece of context is, for me, I really have long believed in this idea of kind of doing stuff yourself first, so you know what you're doing, and then outsourcing, right? So I really believe in doing those things yourself first, but still recognizing your zone of genius and bringing that to a lot of what you do. So like I learned the tech stuff at first. I, built the lead page and did all that. Do I enjoy it a whole lot? Am I happy to not be doing it now? No, I don't enjoy it very much. And yes, I'm super happy to not be doing it now. But I'm so glad that I know how. I'm so glad that I did that. So I want to just preface it with that, where I think that a lot of times we can think, well, I got to like outsource everything from day one. And listen, for some people that's useful. And a lot of times it's just totally unnecessary, to outsource right away. So I just want to provide that context too. If you guys are here, say hi. Thank you so much for joining me. Apparently my dog wants to say hi to you. Apparently there's someone at my front door. Actually, I bet what happened is that the Christmas lights turned on and it scared her. Come here. You're fine. So anyway, that is kind of the gist. Riley. I swear it's like so funny getting used to like a new place, a new space. For me, for her, I was like telling you guys about my fan incident. She's like, where the fuck am I and what's going on? And my boyfriend, whose house is my house now, has a dog too. So they're getting used to each other. Anyway, sorry for getting distracted. But the point is, I have always been a really big believer in doing stuff myself first. When I worked in the nonprofit world and was the manager there, it was really helpful that I had done a lot of stuff myself first in managing a team. And I find that to be true now. It's really helpful that I kind of know the pieces. So if you're starting out, this is definitely, it's not always bad to do things outside of your zone of genius. And I just want to say that, like, tech is definitely not my zone of genius. And I definitely did that for a little while, but I brought a lot of my zone of genius to tech. So like, I really see my zone of genius as like connecting with people, making them feel seen, heard, and understood, helping bring out the best in them, that kind of thing. And so in tech, I just really tried to like get support if I need, like get the tech support, watch the video, like reach out to whatever things I was using, support team that was free, that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely like, I just want to share in saying all of this that I'm not always a believer of like, only do the things that you're great at. Like, yes, eventually, but I think not always at the beginning. So again, just like wanting to provide that context. Hey, Claire. Yes, I moved. I did. Trying to remember what I'm saying while my dog jumps in and out of live stream. Story of my life. Oh my God, Lisa, me too. Crazy. I like think about that all the time. I'm like, this must be what it's like to have toddlers, but way more distracting, right? Okay. So, yeah, I started out doing everything myself. Now it doesn't look like that at all. I probably have 15 to 20 hours of support a week in my business. So I have Megan, who is my COO, my chief operating officer who basically like is the second brain in my business. So she knows everything that's going on, all of our operations. She makes sure it's all getting executed. She reminds me of stuff that I need to be doing. She really is like the second brain. And I tell people this all the time. Like, if you're like getting clients, if you're at this space where, you want to be giving your energy to like your people and your programs, having a second brain in your business is the most invaluable thing that you can possibly do. A lot of people try to outsource a lot of different things, but they still have to hold the top piece of the puzzle box by themselves. And I think the absolute best, smartest, most worthwhile thing I've done in my business is make sure someone else's brain that's not mine is in it too. Because listen, I'm human and sometimes I forget, and I really, really prioritize clients and responsiveness to them and all of that, right? And so there are times where like I forget that I need to do this other thing, or that this needs my attention or whatever, because the more you grow, the more there is to remember. And so if you can get someone that is the second brain in your business, you will be functioning at such a higher level. You will never regret it because someone other than you holds everything. So just really quickly, like I started off with just having a VA, and that's the way I like to think of it, as a VA is just like an extra set of hands. So it's just like I have a bunch of, let's use gardening. I have a bunch of things that need to get planted. I just need an extra set of hands to plant them. Where someone like an OBM or a COO is like, I also see the vision for everything that needs to get planted, and I'm telling people where to do that too, right? Rita says, so how did Megan work up to the COO position? How did she start with you, and are you her only client? Yeah, so Megan started with me as a VA. And we have really grown together, and that's super valuable. And so Megan started as a VA, she became my OBM, and then this year, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I asked her to step into the COO role. Not only because she was ready for it, but also because my business was at a place where I was ready for her to take on even more ownership and responsibility too. So that is something that has been really useful. It's like, you don't need that right away, but if you can grow with someone, if you can have someone learn enough about your business that they can become that second brain, you are doing yourself such a favor, because when it's all on you and when you have to remember it all, you feel that weight. You know what I mean? And so I'm so happy that I have like created a system and a structure and a team where I definitely, of course, feel the weight of being a CEO and business owner, but it's not in the way where I don't feel supported or don't feel like someone else is holding the top of the puzzle box as much as I am, right? So right now we have Megan, who's a COO. We have a couple of VAs under Megan. We sometimes outsource to other VAs if we have like really specific tasks that need done. We have a web developer, we have a graphic designer, and we have hired a couple of content specialists at different times for like repurposing. So if you guys know me, I pump out a lot of content and have for a long time. And so we've done like a project work with other content specialists to just kind of like go take and create content from my old content, if that makes sense. So they're not necessarily writing content for me, but they're kind of like, okay, well, Lacey has, I don't know. God, I think we counted recently like over 200 blog posts. So like, how do we pull more pieces of those, right? Tammy says, what's an OBM? Online business manager. So for that progression, at least for me in my business, it went like VA, which is like virtual assistant, OBM, which is more like online business manager, like the actual management of stuff, and then COO, like the one that's like sharing the vision and all of this strategy with you too. So anyway, COO, a couple of VAs, sometimes we outsource to other VAs. We have a web developer, a graphic designer, and we have done like project content specialist kind of stuff. For the most part, Megan is in charge of all of the logistics, and I'm kind of in charge of like supplying her with what she needs. So like as an example, we did a challenge, I think last month, right? No, October. I don't know, November. We did a challenge last month. And like I created the challenge, right? I wrote all the emails, I wrote the worksheets, I wrote the content for it. Megan is the one who either does or facilitates the doing of making sure all of the strategy behind that has to happen. So are the promo posts getting places? Are the worksheets getting built and designed? Are the emails getting set up? Like, is all the tech ready? Do we have a lead page? Do we have a welcome email? All of that. So basically my current roles are creating content, right? So that would definitely fall under that. And I would say as far as content goes, definitely I am more concerned with creating the like, what's the word I want to use for this? Maybe like higher level content. And so what I mean by that is like challenges, live streams, that kind of stuff. And then, my team, Megan and her team, pull a lot of that and make it other pieces of content. So we do a ton of content repurposing in my business. At this point, my focus is really on creating like the higher level and core pillar pieces of content. Then I do client sessions and I serve my clients. So, Megan and her team are spending a lot of time repurposing a lot of my content in other places and spaces, that kind of thing. My time is really spent on the creation of it. I also jump into my Facebook group daily. They help with the management of the community, but I am definitely personally in my group every day because that's really important to me. And all of this really fits with my zone of genius. Like I love feeling that connection, that depth with other humans. And so being in the group, creating the core high level content, that kind of thing, being on live stream with y'all, like that is stuff that I love and thrive at and want to do more of. So Megan and I over time have really built it. So I am getting to do the work that I love doing and she's getting to do the work that she loves doing. And we kind of, have found this great synergy there. I want to say though that it's really taken time. I mean, Megan's probably worked with me for at least 2, if not more years, maybe 2.5. Yeah, definitely 2.5 years. And so this has all come over time. So that's really important to remember is sometimes I think we're looking for that person right away. The other thing I would say is Megan and I have spent a very significant amount of time cultivating our relationship together. And what I mean by that is like having calls that are just to check in and see how you are, like really staying in touch with each other, really getting to know each other, like being in person together. We went to Paris together. We saw each other maybe 3 times in person last year, like really making this conscious effort to talk and connect and have this super open and transparent relationship. And we have definitely had bumps in the road where like she misunderstood me or I misunderstood her. And every time we have been so diligent about working through them. So that's something I would say too, is if you're at a place where you're trying to build and scale, if you're not managing your team in the right way, you're not going to get the results that you want. So like I see it as my job to create an amazing relationship with Megan because that's how we get amazing results together, right? My job isn't just to like, make sure she's like doing her shit, although that's part of it. But when we have an amazing relationship, she wants to. So, I do the content, client sessions, respond to my clients, and then also like really facilitate our relationship and our understanding of each other. I hope that makes sense. And I'm not trying to make this a whole team conversation, although I'm happy to dive into that more. If you guys have questions, let me know. But any questions you have about like behind the scenes, day to day, feel free to drop those in too. But I hope that's helpful, is this idea of like you can build over time, someone can grow with you. You can really cultivate that relationship and see it come together in this whole new way. So right now, a typical day usually looks like this for me, and I'll just kind of like give you a quick breakdown. And again, of course, if you have questions, feel free to share. Elise says, thank you for speaking to the relationship aspect of having a great team. So helpful. Good. Yes, I think what I noticed, so I had an assistant in my corporate position, and her office was right across the hallway from me. So we naturally formed this close relationship pretty quickly. She was in and out all day. She knew like what I liked for breakfast and what I got for lunch and like all this stuff that like forms a connection, right? And we don't have that in the online space. Like, you know, I live in Tampa and Megan lives in Charleston. And so we don't have that same ability to bond. And so if you can really create opportunities for that, even if it's like, yeah, it's taking up a half hour extra of your time to get on a call, but it's so worth it. You know what I mean? It really makes a huge, huge, huge difference. And the thing that's true is just like building relationships with your audience makes a difference, building relationships with your team makes a difference too, right? Okay, cool. So a typical day, I usually start my day pretty much every day with mindset work. I am the biggest believer in mindset work. You guys know that if you've been following me for any length of time. Huge, huge, huge believer in that. So every day starts with that. For me, it kind of looks a little bit different every day. Most of the time I journal because that is like my thing right now. But it used to be most of the time I meditated. Like it just flips depending on like what I'm like really into and feeling at that moment. Right now, journaling is huge, huge, huge for me. I don't go many days ever with missing that. Although recently during the move, I did have a few and I really started to feel it. So that's big for me. I almost always take a walk in the morning. That's really big for me. And I consider that mindset work. I like to do like visioning and like, you know, just like intention setting and things like that on my walk. So I always try to start my morning off with something like that because I notice a huge, huge, huge fucking difference in my day. So what I mean by that is if I don't, I just feel a little more prickly the rest of the day. I feel a little less centered, a little less grounded, all of those things. And over time, that really catches up with you. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, okay, if you have 1 or 2 days where that's true, but if like you're running your business from that place long-term over time and you're kind of always having that, it's going to show up and it's going to affect your results. So I am just such a big believer in do the freaking mindset work every day. I also am so, what's the word? Like, oh my God, my brain. This is not the word I'm looking for, but so I don't sit here for 15 minutes trying to think of one. I'm so tough on my clients about doing their mindset work. And I don't mean tough like, but I mean, if you're my client, you know that I'm constantly talking to you about this. So this is another reason why it feels so important for me to do it is because congruence is really important to me. Like I want to be about what I say I'm about. And so making that time every morning is really important for me in that sense too, where like, I don't want to get on the phone the rest of the fucking day and tell a bunch of people that they should do mindset work if I'm not doing my own. You know what I mean? Lisa says, so can relate to relationship building. I manage a team of 5 coaches and just checking in is so important. When you don't do it, they don't feel valued and heard. Plus making new business friends is 10 out of 10, 100%. The valued and heard thing is so big, right? Lisa says, do you have a structure for journaling or just go for it? Yeah, I would say I kind of follow a structure. So 2 things. One is my best friend Sarah and I, we have a Happy Thoughts show, and we did a course called Happy Magic, and it was like 90 days of journal prompts. And so I actually did all 90. I wrote the journal prompts, but I did them, if that makes sense, right? Because like they were really, really good. And so I followed that for 90 days and then have restarted that. So that's one of the structures. It's just like a prompt and an affirmation every day. And so I like write to the prompt. And then the second thing I like to do is I write like at the top of my journal, like I'm so grateful that, and then I'll write like things that I'm grateful for right now and that I'm like anticipating coming. So like, it might be like, you know, I'm so grateful for like that next income level I want to hit, even though I'm not there yet or whatever. Like, so it's kind of cool to see the things I'm currently grateful for interspersed with the things that I'm, you know, manifesting or calling in. That's been something I've been doing lately that I really like. But truthfully, I change up my mindset work a lot in the sense that like, for me, mindset work is really just about like, am I programming my brain with what I want it to think? And am I feeling really good? So that's sort of the kick I'm on right now, but I will probably change that up too. Rita says, you are resolute with your clients about mindset work. Amen. Resolute. Good word. That's a great word. I literally just got off a call with a client, told her to do this. It's what I do as well. Journal, meditate, walk, right? It's, I think it's so funny because it's like, those are the things that can feel really easy, or like, well, I'll do that when I'm more successful or whatever. And it's like, those are things that like I have to start my day with because they make such a difference in how I am as a business owner. You're welcome, Lisa. Okay. If anybody has any other questions, let me know. Okay. So mindset work and a walk in the morning. I would say on average, I probably do about 4 calls a day. I definitely have some days where I do more and I have some days where I do less, but I would say that's pretty much my average. I usually switch it up over the week in the sense of like, so Mondays, I usually don't do very many calls at all. But like I do Tuesday afternoon, I do Wednesday morning, I do Thursday, kind of like morning, evening, and take a break in the middle. And then I do Friday morning. So does that, I kind of like switch that piece up. Personally, for me, I really like that variety, if that makes sense. I like having some mornings I can take really slow. I like having some afternoons I can take really slow. It makes me feel really flexible in my schedule, but that's kind of what works for me. The one thing I will say there that I think is a big takeaway that I've seen like with myself and my clients, and that, is probably useful here, is it's really helpful if you kind of bunch calls together, just like you bunch any task, like this idea of batching, right? I really try to do like all my calls in a row so I have time for other stuff. And it's what makes me feel really free. It's what lets me like really dive into stuff I want to create. It's also what keeps me like in the headspace that I'm in. So I'm like not the expert in this. My friend Adrienne Dorison talks about this a lot, but like this idea of context switching, which is like, if you're constantly like sales call, write content, discovery call, do this, client call, do this, like that context switching is really intense for your brain. And so for me, I really try to group calls. And again, like it feels good to have some in the morning, some in the afternoon, whatever, but grouping them is really important to me and how free and flowy I kind of feel in my schedule. And when I have like them scattered throughout the day, I notice that I'm like not feeling as free. So that's important to me. Yeah, Rita says, yes, it's the worst when they get scattered throughout the day because it's not quite enough time to dive into stuff with the interruptions. Exactly. It's like you have an hour, but like by the time you like get your brain in that next place, pick that next task, whatever, it's like crazy. I'm really big on minimizing decision fatigue too. So for me, it's like if I just know I'm like on client calls for the next 4 hours and then I know I have 4 hours after that to do something else, it doesn't feel like fatiguing at all. So that really helps me. That's huge for me. What else do I want to say about that? Okay, so I always take at least an hour break for lunch. That's one thing I've had to get really disciplined with myself on because I did not used to be like this. Like I used to like grab some food, like eat it while I was at the computer, like maybe remember to eat, maybe not. Like I just used to really treat myself like a busy employee, if that makes sense, right? Like gotta get it done. And I think a lot of that was leftover stuff from when I worked in the nonprofit world, because you're just basically like expected to like never stop kind of thing. And I'm sure like any corporate career is like that too in a way. But so I've been really, really intentional about giving myself an hour for lunch. Sometimes I'll take a quick nap. Sometimes I just like have a show that I'm watching. Like recently I rewatched, this is driving me crazy, you guys. Look at what is happening here. What is that? What is that? It's like a rat tail or something. I gotta get that fixed. Anyway, I recently rewatched like Sex and the City marathon and Gossip Girl at lunch, and it's just this time for me to like just like sit and chill and not be like in crazy mode all day. And it just reminds me that like nothing's that urgent, if you know what I mean, right? Like nothing's that urgent. Like I can take an hour and freaking watch Sex and the City if I want. And it's just like one of my core affirmations that I say every day is I always have more than enough time every day to take care of my body, my business, and myself. And so I really try to live as though that's true. And so that lunch hour really helps me with that. Kara says, yes, structure my days like that, grouping calls, content, etc. I agree. It's too hard to focus when you're switching all the time, for sure. Rita says, do you take client calls every Monday through Friday, or do you take a week where you don't have any calls scheduled? Nope, I take calls every week. I hate not having calls scheduled. I got really sick 2 weeks ago, the week of Thanksgiving. I was super sick, and so I got sick on like that Monday, and I had the flu really bad, so it was like days. It wasn't like a 24-hour thing, unfortunately. And so anyway, my point is, basically I went basically a full week without having calls, and I felt an anxiousness or an antsiness around it. Like, I love client calls, and I've structured my business so that I like can focus on that. And so when I don't have that, there's just like this, I don't know, disconnect for me, and I do not thrive in it. I have plenty of clients. I would say probably like more clients than not that actually do like to have an off week. So I don't think it's bad. It's just kind of like knowing what fits you. Personally, I don't like that, but also a lot of people do. So I could, because in my package with my clients, we do 3 calls a month. So technically I could have an off week, but I don't do that. Thanks, Veronica. It is actually, I don't know if I should give it away. It's something we give away at a retreat. Isn't that cute? One more question for you. How many hours a day do you leave open for calls each day? I mean, I pretty much just leave open the time that I want to take calls for, if that makes sense. So, like if I'm planning on having 5 calls that day, or 3 calls that day, or 4 calls that day, like on a Tuesday, I think I have 4 spaces open. I just leave 4 spaces open. And I try to have like 2 additional call spaces on my calendar than I have clients, if that makes sense. So if I want to like book in, or if people want to book in discovery calls or whatever, but I try to keep it super tight in the sense that like it's not leaving a bunch of room for people to schedule wherever. And I have a understanding with my client that if there's ever a week where a time on my calendar doesn't work for you, you let me know and I'll make it work. And I'm super flexible with my one-on-one clients. But for the most part, everyone finds a spot and it works out really well. And so I just try not to keep it too open, because if I do, it always gets crazy, right? Kara says, how many one-on-one clients do you work with, and how many hours a week do you work? Yes, I want to share the hours a week thing for sure. How many one-on-one clients do I work with? It really varies for me. So I'm almost entirely one-on-one focused. The only thing I have besides that is the Value Centered Sales Mastermind, which is like a small 3-person mastermind. And so pretty much all my work is one-on-one. So I would say I vary between 12 and 15. 15 is real full for me, but the only reason I ever would get up to 15, I think, is like if we had some overlap, like i.e., I had someone starting, but someone had some time off in their package, so it got extended by something like that. So it's usually just like overlap. But yeah, like here's the thing that I want to say about that. I know what I love in my business. I love one-on-one clients. I love being on calls with one-on-one clients. I love speaking to my clients. I love everything about one-on-one. And it's taken me a really long time to just like come to grips with that and scale my business in a way that actually serves that. So I 100% do not think that number is right for everybody. I just know that it's right for me after a lot of trial and error, because it's where I thrive. It's where I feel most excited, is like being super one-on-one focused. So totally happy to answer that, but I also just want to like provide that caveat, because I think some people can be like, holy shit, 12 to 15. And like, if that feels overwhelming to you, you totally don't have to do that. You know what I mean? I just don't really have a lot of other offers. That's like where I put my energy. Okay, so anyway, I was saying that I usually, I'll get to the hours thing too. I'm going to explain that in a minute. So I usually switch up calls in the AM versus PM. Then the rest of the time I spend answering clients. So I use Basecamp with all my clients, and I spend a ton of time in communication with them. Like, I am super involved and invested. I talk to most of my clients several times a week in Basecamp. I review their copy, their content, like all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I might only have 4 calls a day, but I'm definitely spending more time with my clients than that. So most of my days are entirely client focused. Like I'm doing the mindset work, I'm getting on calls, I'm answering clients, and then maybe creating additional content like this live stream or something like that. You know, I have happy thoughts once a week, that kind of thing. But yeah, like for the most part, my focus right now is always on serving my clients and serving my audience. So super client focused. Most of my days are right now because I have a team that's doing the rest. I believe that being focused on my clients and serving them really well has been the thing that's like really, really grown my business. Most of my clients re-sign, and most of the people that become my clients have been referrals or consumed a ton of my content. So putting that focus on serving my clients super well and then creating additional content is really strategic in the sense that I have figured out that that is what grows my business, that is what gets me more results and more revenue and makes me the happiest. So I feel like I've really found that sweet spot in that sense. So yeah, my focus is almost always on serving my clients and then my audience in any way. Speaking of, if you're on my list, I'm super excited because I am sharing something new with you tomorrow that I am not sharing anywhere else. It's just for you if you're on my list, and I think it's super exciting and really good, and it's so value-based or so value-packed. And so this is the stuff I have fun with, is being like, how else can I deliver value? And so that's something I've been thinking of lately, is like, I want to like really honor the people on my list in a new way. How else do I deliver value to them? So in that extra free time when I'm not like doing some of the clients, that's what I'm doing. So anyway, if you're on my list, be on the lookout for that tomorrow. I think you're going to freaking love it. I'm not going to lie. If you're not on my list, get on my list so you can get that tomorrow. But the point is, what I have discovered is that by serving my audience really well, serving my clients really well, my business always grows. So that's like 100% of the time where my focus is. I probably work about 35 to 40 hours a week. Now, I will say that some weeks are a little bit more and some weeks are a little bit less. Like, for example, a challenge week, I'm going to work more because I'm like going through the Facebook group and trying to respond to everybody's stuff and trying to, you know, be way more engaged than normal. Or the week that I'm creating the content for a challenge might be heavier, and then, you know, the next week might be slower. So one thing I've really, really, really learned over time is to give myself permission to ebb and flow. I really love that quote, nothing blooms all year. And I try to remember that. Like, I don't mind putting in 45 hours this week, but I got to give myself some time next week, kind of thing. And it doesn't always look like week to week, but like as an example, in like the October-ish range, I went through a period where I literally traveled every week for 6 weeks, I think, between like speaking gigs, client, VIP days, stuff like that. It was like 6 weeks of like nonstop traveling. So I worked more in that time than I normally would, but I have the rest of the year off, and I've like been very clear that I'm like not doing a lot more. And so I've had a lot more downtime. And giving myself that permission to like work when I need to work, but then like not always be at that mode has been really, really, really good for me and important for me. So I would say average is 35 to 40, but again, like that is more like average over time, sometimes way more, sometimes way less. Like I've definitely been working less lately because I've been moving, I've been done traveling, I'm going on a couple trips for fun. I'm going to Vegas next weekend. I moved all weekend. So like, does that make sense? Like, it's just sort of like an ebb and flow. And I think that's sort of one of the benefits of, you know, just like having your own business, is being able to do that. But I think sometimes we get too rigid with ourselves, where it's like, I either always have to be hustling or I can't like stop. Like I can't find that balance sometimes. And so I just want to say that like finding your version of ebb and flow with that is so important. Rita just says, yes, me too. I just traveled for 6 weeks straight for speaking, and I should have worked tons during that time, so I had downtime after. That's a lesson learned for me for next time I have lots of travel in a back-to-back way. For sure. I mean, I think for me, Rita, like it's almost like if I'm just like in that mode where I'm like, okay, it's like go time for 6 weeks, like it's easier for me to kind of like bring it back down afterwards. Cause I'm like, oh, I just had go time for 6 weeks. Like mama go rest. You know what I mean? But it depends. And I think everybody finds their own flow. That for sure has been something important to me. I would say I work sporadically and do like a tiny bit of weekend time, but that's also changed dramatically. When I was like doing a lot more of the like operations part of my business, I would work weekends a lot because it was when I had like total uninterrupted time, in the sense of like I didn't have 4 client calls that day. I just had like total downtime. So I used to work a lot of weekend mornings when I was building and growing. I definitely don't anymore. I mean, I do sporadically over the weekend sometimes, you know, here and there I'll answer clients or create some content or whatever. But for the most part, I've really taken back my lunch hours, taken back my weekends, like all that kind of stuff that like us high performers and high achievers struggle with. But again, that's taking me time. But now that's what it looks like for me. Really, I basically like slowly grew my team and decreased/increased my hours and sort of found my sweet spot. And the reason I say decrease/increase is like I've had to like ramp it up and ramp it down to find what works for me. So, you know, there have been times where I was definitely working less. And like I said, like I've had like the week off where I didn't have clients and didn't like it. And so then I would increase a little bit more. Or, you know, I'd realize I was working too much and try to decrease and delegate. So now I feel like I'm at that sweet spot where like I want to be working around 35 to 40 hours most weeks, because here's the thing. Right now, I don't have kids. Like I lived like until about a week ago, I lived by myself. And even now I live with my boyfriend, but he travels a ton for work. So it's this idea of like, that feels good to me right now. I have plenty of clients who 20 to 25 hours feels really, really good to, and they're still making 6 figures. So it's sort of like figuring out what feels good to you and like what your sweet spot is. So you get to play with that, like increase your delegation, decrease it, and like find that spot for you where like you're like, yeah, this is it. This feels good most of the time. I never feel too burnt out, and I never feel like I'm just creating shit to do either. Do you know what I mean? But it really is a process, and patience is so important. Like, again, I'm coming to you from a space of like, I mean, like 3.5 years in, I guess, 3 years in August or July. So yeah, right? You know, really give yourself time to build that up, build that team, test different things, find your sweet spot. But when you do, it's going to be so worth it. And this is something I tell my clients all the time. Things like delegating, testing, increasing hours, decreasing hours, playing with all that is actually time consuming and brain space consuming. And a lot of times we don't want to do that work. But like the thing I will say sitting here today, 3.5 years in, is I'm so fucking grateful to myself that I did that, because I feel so much more flow and joy and happiness in my business than, hey, Jen, than I have, you know, that I feel so much joy and flow and happiness in my business that I feel like I've given myself, if that makes sense. I always say like I've earned ease and I've earned flow. And so what I mean by that is like I did the work to find this sweet spot. So if you're sitting there going, oh my God, like, how does she have that nailed? Because I have been trying to nail it for 3.5 years. And I'm sure some of that will change. Like, you know, I'm sure if like there will be a time in my life where I want to work less and I'm going to have to figure all this out again. But it's just that idea of like, you can do all this with patience. I'm such a big fan of that idea of like, ask yourself what the you that has what you want would be doing. But I think that gets confusing in the sense of the full structure of your business, which is like, you know, it can be easy to be like, you know, 2 months in and be like, well, I want to be the business owner that's, you know, making 7 figures and only working 20 hours a week. So I guess I have to hire a huge team and do all this stuff and da da da. That's not exactly what it means. Like you have to embody a lot of those traits and that energy, but you don't have to do everything that you would do. You have to give yourself patience to grow. and patience to find your flow in that process, and like patience to build your team and find the right team and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't mean it has to happen slow. I mean, I grew this business very fast, right? Like I had a 20K month, my second month in business. We hit 6 figures in 10 months. We hit multi 6 figures in 16. Like it grew fast by all accounts, but the patience piece was being able to be okay with the different seasons in my business as I found what works for me. And I think so often we're not really okay with the different seasons, where like there was a season where I was working weekends a lot. Now I don't. There was a season where I was not being gracious to myself as a boss. Now I'm more gracious, like that kind of stuff. So wherever you are, give yourself a little permission and patience. And it doesn't mean that you can't create the results, but it also doesn't mean that you have to like 0 to 60 them either. You know, most small businesses fail because they scale too quickly. And so you don't have to be in that boat either, if that makes sense. What you have to be in is like, what do I need more of right now? What would feel really good to me? What's feeling good in my business right now? What's not feeling good in my business right now? Those are like really great questions. Like maybe like what's not feeling good to you is like, you really need to be delegating more. Beautiful. Maybe what's feeling really good is doing your group programs. Cool. How do we do more of that? Like the more you can ask yourself those questions along the way, the more you're going to see the path open up for you to show you what you need. So it was like when I was like not giving myself that lunch break and I was asking myself, what would feel really good right now? It's like eating lunch and breathing more consistently in the middle of the day. Like it's that easy kind of, right? But the key is we have to take that time to ask ourselves those questions. And so that's another thing I would add to this is like, take CEO time for yourself each week. Personally, I try to do this on Fridays and just for like an hour, but it's like those higher level questions of like, what's feeling good, what's not, what's working, what's not. That's how you test and tweak everything. It's like you sit down and you breathe for a moment enough to figure it out, right? And so I really feel like that's why I've gotten to this place in my business where things are feeling really good, because I've continued to be like relentless about asking myself those questions. And that's the thing I think we miss. Sometimes we're so in the business and in the doing, and especially like once we're at that point where we have some clients but not enough and we're just go, 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 go. And we just miss these opportunities to like know what would feel really good. And I promise you, the way to scale your business and actually get good results is for it to feel good. Most of the time, the thing that takes us out of the game or makes us want to quit or whatever is because we're not building a business that actually serves and supports us. And it's really hard to like receive and create results from that space. So take that CEO time for yourself. Yeah, Belinda, I mean, it's just like eating lunch and breathing. No big deal, right? What is the other thing I want to say? I think another thing is you have to remember that you don't have to create everything now, right? And so, you know, if I had tried to get the COO, work this amount of time, get this many clients, all of this, whatever, you know, 3 months in or even 6 months in or even 8 months in, like I never would have been able to do it all at once. So if you see this all as a path and you see the path as continuing to unfold, like that is the gift, right? So for me, one of the things I've been really intentional about and that I really had to work through is, you know, not running someone else's race, but running my own. And that's something I would like love to remind you of today, because if you do that, you're going to see such different results. And you're going to be in a place where you know you can create your results versus feeling like, well, I followed someone else's path, so I have to keep doing what they're doing or what they're saying to do. Like one of the things I'm most grateful about is I really feel like I've created this path and created this business, like, you know, with like blood, sweat, and tears. And so I have like total faith that like I can keep creating what I want and keep creating results because I didn't like follow anyone else's game plan. Like if you guys know me, you know that that's like one of the things I preach the most is like create your own version of success. I feel like I've really done that, like by being super one-on-one focused. Like I have no model to look at for that. I have no mentor that's done this. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like I think that creating your own version of success, your own path. Like this is how you create that ease and flow in your business, right? This year alone, this is fun. I don't think I've shared this yet, but this year alone, we added over 100K of revenue in a specific income stream without adding any additional work or hours, which is crazy. And I'm so freaking pumped even to like think about that or say that, like 100K additional income stream with no extra hours or spend attached to it. So like 100K plus pure profit. And it's really because I have like been fucking relentless about creating what I want. So I hope that's a big takeaway for you today. I also am going to share with you all about that on next week's live stream, I believe. Yes, next week's live stream. So same time, same place next week. I'll share with you all about that additional 6 figures because I think that's really important. And then also I'm going to be doing a live stream series later in December. That's going to be freaking awesome. I'm already working on it and I'm so excited for it. It's called Your 6-Figure Success Plan because I really want to take you through exactly what I did to not only create my first 6 figures, but my additional 6-figure revenue streams along the way. And I'm going to do a whole case study on my business because I personally really, really enjoy case studies. And I really feel like if you can see how someone else is doing, you can take the pieces that resonate for you and leave the rest. And then I'm also going to walk you through how to create yours. But the point isn't like because I want you to do it like me, but the point is because I think that when we can actually see a case study of how other people have done this, we can feel really inspired to kind of like create our own path from that. Yeah, Jen, a path continuing to unfold. Exactly. Kara says how. Kara, I'm going to talk all about that next week. We're already at 48 minutes, so I'm going to not this week, but next week, same place, same time. And I'm going to share exactly the process of all that. Thank you, Jen. All right, so if you want to join us next week, no opt-in, whatever, just come here, same place, same time. If you want to join the live stream series, which is going to be a really big deep dive into my ways that I've created and added 6-figure income streams and how you can do that too, you can go to alituplife.com/6 figures. You can type out 6 or you can just use the 6. Either one works. But I would love for you to join us for that. It's going to be really, really useful. And I think it's going to especially be useful in going into 2019. So join me next week here. Join me for the live stream series, alituplife.com/6 figures. And I will see you guys next week. I know this was a long one, so thank you so much for hanging with me. Thank you for your questions. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to add your questions into, and I will, pop back in and answer that. So thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.